All right, welcome to Buffalo Plus Live, presented by Connors and Ferris. Mike Catalana, Dan Fetes. I am Jenna Cottrell. We are getting you set for Week 4 against the Ravens. Mike has a grin on his face.
Oh, we're getting set for Week 4 against the Ravens. I just wanted to repeat something you just said, so we're just like last week.
David Corso, shout out.
That's it.
We see you watching. We see
that
you
name
watching.
will be forever synonymous.
Paying attention to everything you two
Wow.
said today. Really.
My wife watched that thing no short than 80 times.
Yeah, mine did too, and she laughed.
It's so good. How could you not laugh at that? It was amazing.
There's sometimes we make some old comments, jokes.
I leaned right into that one,
Yeah,
boy.
no.
That one you set us up. That one you put on the tee for us.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a senior moment. That's
So-
okay, though.
But it's been weather each week.
I know.
I mean, you know, whether it was you there or Dan, you know, I've been there for the games. It's been you guys were in the super heat in LA, and we were out there, crazy heat in Miami, and now it's going to rain in Baltimore.
I know.
I don't know if it's going to affect the game rain.
Well, I feel like the forecast continues to change,
Yeah.
and obviously things are, our hearts are with the people down who have been affected by
Right.
Hurricane Ian. But I don't know how much we'll see in terms of it. Is it going to be a downpour? Is it going to be light sprinkles?
Our guys are saying light rain, but steady throughout the game.
Yeah, and this goes back to Josh Allen's first game that he ever played. It was in a monsoon in Baltimore. He came in at halftime.
That didn't go great.
After Nathan Peterman.
Set him up with a 30
That wasn't the Peterman game.
No, that was not.
That was just a Peterman game.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different.
Sean always loved him.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
Still does.
He probably still does.
All right. You
All
ready?
right, we are going to take a very quick break, and we'll be right back for the start of our show coming up in about 10 seconds. Stay with us.
Buffalo Plus, your interactive look at the week in football, brought to you by Connors and Ferris.
All right, welcome to Buffalo Plus, presented by Connors and Ferris. Mike Catalana, Dan Fetes. I am Jenna Cottrell. The Bills with a tough Week 3 loss against the Dolphins. Now they head to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Mike, what do you make of this team as they head in? And also, how do they turn the page after that tough loss to the Dolphins?
I'll say it again, week-to-week league. That's what it is. And the circumstances in Miami were different. Reasons, not excuses, to lose that game. And they had a lot of reasons that things went poorly in that game.
Yep.
But a lot of it falls on the team, because even with all those issues and with the weather and the injuries, multiple plays, make any one of them, and I think they win the game. So while they know there were issues and there were things that weren't in their control, Dan, some of the things in their control they didn't come up with, and they just got to move past it.
I feel like we've rehashed this right after the game, and then we talked about it again on Wednesday, and now we're talking about it. Like, it was just an uncharacteristic game. You had talked about how it felt a little bit like the New England win game. It also felt a little bit like the Jacksonville game, where you just felt the Bills would eventually put a drive together in the second half, and they didn't. And obviously the injuries, we will get to those as the show goes on. They're still a concern. Look, there's no reason to panic. I think we've all agreed that this is early in the season, but you wish you would have had that one back.
That was a surprising thing to me, is just all the mistakes and the way that they piled up. Because we've seen this team be able to be very mature, take care of the football, all of those things. And then to have the mistakes that were made and then the continuation of that, it felt like all game long they couldn't kind of snap that momentum and kind of get things going in a positive way when they absolutely needed to.
No, they didn't do that. But again, this is the way the league is. They say, you celebrate the wins, it's panic when you lose. And it really is. And
Yeah,
so,
that's fair.
Look at Indy.
Yeah.
Shut out by Jacksonville and comes back and beats Kansas City the next week. And that's why I think you have to look at this league. There's only one team that hasn't won a game, and one, depending on what happened on Thursday night, two that are undefeated after 3 weeks. This league has a lot of parity, and teams step up and down. I haven't changed my opinion on where this team is.
That's how I
I
feel,
think when they
actually.
get healthy, I think they're the best team in the NFL. But, it was not a good week.
Yeah, it was not a great week, and the players talked about how you have to refocus after a week like that. But they also talked about how it's kind of have to wipe the slate clean as well.
What loss? When was that? I don't remember that. That's the mindset that you got to have, man. You just got to keep pushing. You can accept defeat sometimes, because you shouldn't have been beat, or you shouldn't have lost that game. And if you had another crack at it, it would be different.
We have a 24-hour rule. Try to get over that and move forward. But what you we got a lot of fighters on this team. A lot of guys stepped up. We had some. It was the small things, the details. Things that we harp on, things that we try to not only rep but speak into existence. So it's just like you can right the ship when it comes back around. But that one's in the past. We're a good football team. I believe so. Everybody knows that.
Two things.
Yep.
Stephon Diggs, I feel like every time he's at the podium talking on Media Day, there is a bug. So he's kind of got to dip and dive around it. And then Von Miller, when you talk to him, and Dan, you've been there, and obviously Mike yourself as well, he is so serious. When what do you do when you have a loss? How do you move on? What loss? You're like, no, the loss on Sunday. Like, you're like panicking. Like, no.
You don't expect to get a question from a player when you ask them the question.
A question back is terrifying.
Even some of the guys who are good with the media, some days they don't enjoy it. Von loves it.
Oh, he loves it.
He loves everything.
He
loves everything.
Yeah, he does.
You said, does he love Baltimore?
Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure he loves crab cakes and football and Lamar. He's a big fan of Lamar. We'll get to that later, too.
Yeah.
So, Von loves everything.
Yeah, he certainly does. All right, let's talk more about this team, though, because what they don't love is those close games. They've been 0-7 in one-score games. This is a Bills team that we know has been tested. They've been done phenomenal in blowouts, but those one-score, you said it right there, the struggles that we see. Mike, what do they do? Because this is going to continue to follow them until they kind of break that narrative.
Jenna, I've seen people try to rationalize this, and they come up with numbers. And look, I understand. You go back to the year before when the Bills dominated in one-score games, even twice in the playoffs when they got it done and moved on against Indianapolis and Baltimore. But this isn't about total numbers. This is about watching the games. This is about a close game. And the Bills had opportunities both on offense and defense last year and now so far in one close game this year. So Josh Allen was asked about it. And look, it's the quarterback. Last year in Kansas City, he made all the plays, and it was the defense that fell apart. This time I thought the defense played well, and Josh Allen had issues at the end. Here's what he had to say about it.
And again, every game presents its own opportunities and obstacles that we got to find a way to fight through. And this last one being in critical situations, right before the half, making sure that I get the snap cleanly and find a way to snap, spike the ball and allow ourselves to kick a field goal there, or if it's a mindset or decision, and we're just happy that it happened in week 3 and not week 17.
So Dan, I wanted to say to you, I look at it and say, is it a plus or a minus that over the last year and a half or year plus, it hasn't been like Josh Allen doesn't do the play or the coaching makes a mistake or the defense. It's sort of been spread around, and I guess you could look at that either way because it has been coaching, it has been defense in different games. And even Josh Allen, as much as he did for them Sunday, had tough plays at the end.
Look, this is becoming a trend and not a trend and a good trend for the Bills. Look, they have struggled in these games, as we have talked about. And, Mike, you're right. Whether it's coaching one day or it's at the end of the half, it's something as simple as Josh getting a snap from a backup center. That plays into this. All of these things. But I don't think this goes away. And the players say they don't think about it and it's not on their mind. Sure. But when games are close in the fourth quarter, there has to be that sense of we've been here before and we've tripped. And now once you have to succeed to get that confidence.
I agree with you. I think when you're in the moment, you're like, I have Josh Allen as my quarterback, we will be fine. But then when you see things kind of fall apart in the way that they have at the end of these couple of games where they have lost by 6 points or less, then it's like this will continue to follow them because the fact that they have not been able to pull out a game like this. But again, I think in the moment the confidence is there. But then when you take the wide angle look at it, you're like, there is a trend here.
Yeah, and this is not a statistical thing. You could have a game where you're up by 10 and they score a late touchdown and it's a close game. You guys know what we're talking about when it's a close game. And it's not always at the end. The pass to Isaiah McKenzie, right there. Josh throws it low. McKenzie not getting out of bounds, a chance for a field goal.
Gabe Davis.
But even go back, Gabe could have been and should have been a touchdown. And how about Matt Milano dropping what would have been a pick 6? Those are all plays you make in a game that is going to be tight. It's great when you can blow people out. but there's going to be close games.
And they always talk about how new season, it's different, it's a new story, there's different obstacles. This one has carried over because a lot of the core guys, the core coaches are still here. And I think it still carries with them.
It carries with them. There are a lot of different faces out there for this team, especially with the injuries. We'll talk about it, but it will continue to follow them until they are able to win and can win consistently. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Coming up, we're going to talk all about Lamar Jackson, what he means to this Ravens team, and how the Bills can go about trying to slow him down on Sunday. I still look like I dream a genie?
That's what they're saying. DW says, I dream a genie.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Z-Mad Mafia. Feels like Dorsey needs to open up some creativity with McKenzie and the wide receiver sweeps, better game plan versus pressure like running back screens and tight end screens. These are some of the learning curves that come with a new play caller. Frustrations about where they're coming from. I think that this offense, you can look at a lot of analytics, they are not explosive so far through 3 games. That is in point. When you run 94 plays or whatever, that also says that you're not explosive on offense as you have been in years past. A 20-play drive is great, but that means there weren't a lot of big chunk plays.
Yeah, I don't think a 20-play drive is great for them because
I agree.
They usually, they can score.
Yeah.
And that was very frustrating. So many little plays. And, I go back to the close games. I'm sorry, I don't care about the stats. I mean, you're going to lose some, you're going to win some. The fact that they won a bunch is fortunate. It's just that there's been too many. And I think back to those games and I say, team failure. Kansas City, it was on the defense and the coaching staff.
Yeah.
Tennessee was on the defense and then on the offense at the end.
Yeah.
Sunday really was on both. There was a lot of circumstances, but all those things, and they still lose a game like that.
I know, but the thing is, they only lost by 2 points.
Right, so
that's where it's like that much more frustrating, I believe.
All of these things get magnified in a loss. I thought it was great. In the locker room, we asked Dawson Knox, you only have 9 catches through 3 games. And he goes, well, guess what? Nobody cared about that after the first 2 games.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more of the show. All right, welcome back to Buffalo Plus, presented by Connors and Ferris. Dan Fetes, Mike Catalana. I am Jenna Cottrell. Let's talk all about this Ravens team, and we obviously have to start with Lamar Jackson. He is everything for Baltimore. He can run it. He can throw it. He has the most passing touchdowns so far throughout the NFL season with 10. He had 5 total touchdowns last week against the Patriots. I mean, Mike, when you talk about a guy like him, I mean, he is that difference maker, explosive guy at QB.
Yeah, he does a lot of the same things that Josh Allen does for his team. He just does them very differently. And Jenna and I were both in Dallas when he got picked. Remember, we talked to him.
Yes, that's
the
right.
day before the draft, we talked to all the quarterbacks. I asked Lamar if the Bills had contacted him, and he said, I didn't talk to the Bills.
Yeah.
I tweeted that out, and then all Bills fans are yelling at me. I'm like, you're hearing the man say I didn't talk to the Bills. But he ended up going right at the end of that first round, last pick of the first round. And he's always been the guy who's always had to prove he can be better than what people thought, like Allen. And I'm fascinated, Dan, when I watch the two of them, because they are so different, yet there's the similarity of they can run, they can throw, they can make plays at any time.
That they've had lots of critics. They've had success, not the Super Bowl success, which is obviously what everybody talks about with a quarterback. Can you win a Super Bowl with him? Lamar has been thought of as limited as a passer, similar to Allen, and they have both overcome that. I think they are both so dynamic, and like Mike says, in different ways. Josh will run over you or hurdle over you, where Lamar can make you miss in a phone booth. And Von Miller has played against a lot of great quarterbacks, both on his team and against his teams. He loves talking about Josh Allen. Can't say enough good things about him. But this week, he was all over Lamar Jackson.
Nobody's like Lamar, man. He's quick. He's twitchy. Any little space that he can get, he can take it the distance. He's a blend of all different players, and he can throw the ball. His base is a quarterback, but he can also move like a receiver and hit the edge like a running back and make guys miss like a running back.
Yeah, and I love the way he is with his team.
Yeah.
I think they depend on him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They really
definitely.
do. He's won an MVP in this league. Again, he's been doubted so much that they still haven't signed him yet. Now,
Yeah.
I think the Ravens have built this entire team around him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Greg Roman as the offensive coordinator, so he's going to get paid.
Yeah.
You know what? Honestly,
Price,
these are the
though.
two guys, and I would say you could say Mahomes too.
Yeah.
These are the guys in the league who deserve the fully guaranteed contract that Deshaun Watson got. Lamar has done everything asked of him.
Absolutely.
Josh Allen's gotten paid. Mahomes has gotten paid. Lamar should get paid because he may be a little short of being the best, but he's top 5.
And like the comparison, I was just thinking about it. Like, he's such a unicorn. It's kind of like Ohtani in baseball. Like, what he does is so uniquely rare. As Vaughn talked about, the way that he's a running back and a wide receiver. Oh, and also he's a really good passer. He's developed into that. It's kind of like he really is like the right-handed Mike Vick.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's the closest.
I think he's a better quarterback than Vic.
And I think,
Vic was an explosive player, too, with
I know,
a
I was
great
just
arm.
trying to say that.
But I think Lamar has become more of a quarterback. He's got Mark Andrews as a tight end. Loves going to him.
Yeah.
He's used some of these other playmakers, but the Bills have better weapons than he does.
Yeah.
And I think he does more with less right now. I got to tell you, I'm impressed by him. He's a handful. The Bills with Leslie Frazier have done a pretty good job against Lamar.
Containing.
At least the last time they played him in the playoffs, but it's a little different defense this time.
And you talk about Mark Andrews. I mean, that's been one of his favorite targets throughout the last couple of weeks of the season. And he's a guy that he's not afraid to go up and throw it over to. And, I mean, when we look at this Ravens team, though, I mean, you have Duvernay as well. But then you also look at the defense. I mean, this is a team that's
not good.
It's also battled injuries as well. When you take Lamar out of it, there's some of those pieces that you kind of look at and you're like, okay, those secondary issues, they do pop out to you, Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good.
No.
This secondary is not good, Mike. And you talked to somebody in Baltimore that knows all about it.
Yeah, Sean Stepner covers the team, Channel 2 in Baltimore. And I asked him about this Ravens defense, and he's like, Bills fans, well, take a listen.
Their defense, specifically their pass defense, and the lack of a pass rush over the last few years has really hurt this as well. But they're last in the league in pass defense. They get burned all the time. Bills fans have to be super excited, super geeked for what they're going to find in the Ravens defense coming up here on Sunday.
They gave up 450 yards and 6 touchdowns by Tua.
Yeah, they did.
Who threw for 120 against the Bills?
Yeah.
And you and me were playing corner.
Nice job. Good game.
Yeah. Held them in check. It's a bad secondary.
It really is. And it's funny, you think of the Ravens. Now you think of Lamar.
Well,
you think of defense.
Yeah.
Ed
Stout
Reed and
defense
company, those guys. Yeah, Ed
Ray
Reed ain't
Lewis.
stepping out on that field on Sunday. So the Bills have to take advantage of that because they may need to score a lot of points.
Well, hopefully the weather will allow them to do that. They can kind of exploit that and take the opportunity. Hey, coming up after the break, we're going to talk about Dane Jackson's return to the field, the smiles as he got back out there with the Bills. We'll have more from him coming up after the break.
And I knew you didn't. I know you didn't know what. Either of the things, the Ravens video or the tease, you had no idea.
I was like, where are we going?
And the Ravens, and all of a sudden you're like, see? Secondary issues. And then you're like, coming up, we're going to talk about Dane Jackson. That's it.
The background is normally I help produce a show, but I was off today, so I came in.
True professional. Just rolling with it.
So we're just going to wait
Jenna,
for the
buckle up. Buckle up.
Everybody knows Jenna's a prima donna. She walks in, just says, hand me the rundown. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so funny.
Oh, my. I had no idea.
You started talking about Mark Andrews. I was like, we didn't schedule. We had none of that scheduled.
Well, I was just like, okay. And then I was like, all right, it's not that. It's like Duvernay.
Duvernay. And I'm like, where is this in the rundown?
Well, that's why I asked what the video was. Because I was like, what's in the video?
Roy Collins says, no one read this already, right? Roy says, good luck throwing for 400 yards in the rain. He may be right, but I don't think we're supposed to get heavy rains. I think it's supposed to be a light rain going on.
Also,
so we'll see.
There is a factor. I know a lot of people think about passing game. Wind affects the passing game more than rain does.
Yeah.
Especially as long as it's not monsoon-like rain. I mean, they do a pretty good job of keeping the balls dry, and and then Sean McDermott said that he was looking at the forecast for Sunday when he was on his way back from Miami.
Yeah.
Hold on. Colin Stewart. Hey, first time on Bills Mafia in Scotland.
Wow.
Thanks for being with us.
That's pretty cool.
There we go.
That's why you had to get interrupted, Dan.
Yeah.
Well, at least I didn't repeat what you said.
No, that's. Oh, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with more of the
She's
show.
on it. She's
Whoa.
ready.
Yeah. Buckle up.
No.
All right, welcome back to Buffalo Plus, presented by Connors and Ferris. Mike and Dan chatting all about the injury report. We do want to take a look at that as we get ready for this game on Sunday. Presented by UR Medicine Sports Medicine. It is once again a very long list for the Bills, including on Thursday when Gabe Davis did not practice. A little concerning there. Actually, a little bit more than concerning, Dan. I mean, we know he's been battling an injury, but it seems like that ankle is still a lingering thing.
Yep, on Wednesday's practice, he seemed to come up during a route, kind of slipped a little bit, wasn't the same, obviously did not practice on Thursday. That's the bad. The good news, Ryan Bates was limited after not practicing Wednesday. He's in the concussion protocol.
Yeah.
We talk about how depleted they are on the offensive line. Getting Bates back would be a huge lift, along with Mitch Morse being limited and Jordan Poyer.
And Deion Dawkins, who missed due to illness, then was back at practice. And by the way, if you're watching us on Sunday, you can follow all of us on social media. We'll be updating. Jenna and I will be down in Baltimore with the latest on the injury news.
And in terms of the injury news, a bright spot on that list, though, is Dane Jackson returning to practice only 9 days after that scary collision he had against the Titans in Monday Night Football, leaving the field in an ambulance, Dan. I mean, you talked to him in the locker room just about him getting back out on the field. And that smile, that said it all right there.
Yeah, some things are bigger than sports, and Sean McDermott kind of talked about the fact that when you see somebody loaded into an ambulance, you're no longer a football coach, you're just a human being. And it was a scary scene. So to see him back, smiling, already back to practice, I asked him how scary it was, and he was all smiles.
I mean, it was pretty scary. It was pretty scary for sure. I mean, I wanted to get up, but, you know what I mean, precautionary things, and you can't get up. So it was a scary way on the hospital, not being able to move or anything like that. Not knowing, really the unknown was the most scary part, really. But once I knew everything was good, then I kind of relaxed.
I love this, though, how he talked about all the outpouring of support and was so thankful and appreciative of it. And he said that he also had people sending edible arrangements to his house. Random fans, I mean, come on.
It's toilet paper, it's edible arrangements. Bills Mafia is just built different.
Yeah.
You know what? I do wonder, though, for a guy, when you have something like that, and he's fortunate that it wasn't
Absolutely.
maybe, mentally how that impacts you when you step back out on the field and go to play.
I think that's fair.
Because I've always thought about when the players are in the game and that ambulance drives off and then the whistle blows and they go back and play, and that's more immediate.
Yeah.
Now the guy who was injured has a chance to think a little bit more.
I'd say because it's the unknown, and that's what Dane said. It was the fact that you don't know how seriously injured you are. Said somehow no structural damage to his neck, spine, anything like that. So I think once you get the check and they say, yeah, you're good, these guys are built
differently,
different,
no doubt.
you know, to go run out there on the field. So I think knowing that you dodged a bullet there is one thing.
Yeah, no structural damage, just dealing with soreness. It truly is unbelievable.
He said that every time he rewatched the hit, because he didn't watch the hit, didn't see the hit, he said his back hurts. So just watching the hit back.
So I think he's going to stop.
Yeah, I think we're all right.
I think he's going to stop. We'll see that. No timeline yet really on when he's going to get back out there on the field in terms of playing, but we know it's just encouraging to see him back out there in terms of practice. And we know we're getting ready for this game. We talked to our great sponsor, Greg Connors, about what his read on this one is against the Ravens. Here's what Greg had to say.
And in terms of the defense, you know, we've got our secondary is young. The defensive line is banged up. I mean, he is one of the most talented athletic quarterbacks in the NFL. And it's a matter of who's going to flinch and who's going to make that mistake. I think the Bills are going to come back and they're going to play a much more disciplined style team, offense and defense, more like the McDermott games have, unlike last week's. But I think it's going to be a shootout. I think it's going to be like 34-31 Bills.
A more disciplined team. I feel like that's something we do expect to see out there.
Yeah, I mean, they had opportunities
Yeah.
And they didn't make those plays. They got a couple of penalties that I think they would like back, including Josh Allen. So,
Yeah.
yeah, a little more of that discipline, especially if the game is close.
Yeah, and Alan talked about that situational football and how important that is. Coming up, we'll have our picks and predictions for this one down in Baltimore. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Hello. Welcome back, everyone.
Jim Marks says, remember when the Pats beat the Bills and they were the #1 seed? We've talked about that.
Yeah.
Referring to that game, see that again. It's kind of the way I was looking at it, because that game, even though that was in December, Patriots left, boy, we're the #1 team in the division. Our quarterback is ready and all those things. And the Bills had to turn it around quickly and obviously, beat New England twice before the end of the season, including in the playoffs, and didn't punt in either game. Now, I'm not saying they'll do that with Miami, and I think based on Miami's schedule, they're going to be around for the year.
Yeah.
But I still believe that the Bills are the better team.
I can't wait to watch that game tonight.
Couple more injuries. People asking about Oliver and Jordan Phillips. Ed seemed to be trending again in the right direction. I talked to him in the locker room on Wednesday. He said that it's been frustrating because he's never missed time before. Jordan Phillips, on the other hand, looks more week to week. Sean McDermott was saying it's not going to be this week. He hopes it's next week, but he wasn't even so sure about that.
Yeah, that's definitely something to monitor going forward.
And Kumero's out for special teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's been a thing, but they did sign Xavier Rhodes at corner, and I think he's going to play. You think he's going to start. Did you say you thought he was going to start?
I think he's going to play.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on what they decide to do.
With Dane.
But he is a veteran who has been around.
He's a warm body at this point.
Oh, that's... Wow.
They are losing everybody.
I know, it's just... That.
It is. And by the way, we won't know until Sunday, but I think there's a chance Dane Jackson plays in the game.
I agree.
You think so?
Absolutely.
I think there is.
Wow, I don't think so.
Okay.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Buffalo Plus Live, presented by Connors and Ferris. Let's get into our picks and predictions for this game. Dan, we are all now 2-1 on the season, but let's start with you.
I want to give credit to Bills Mafia because nobody has panicked over this one loss. I think in years past, everybody would hit the panic button and we think this would be the start of a downward spiral. We know that injuries are a factor, but I think we all understand that this Sean McDermott-led team, led by Josh Allen, will bounce back. Weather does concern me. If this turns into a monsoon, I think it favors the Ravens, but I think Josh Allen gets the offense back on track. 33-23, it's not a one-score game, but it's close throughout. I just really like the way the Bills' defense has played. Even being decimated, we're still able to hold Miami to just under 250 yards of offense. I think their defense has been playing better than I expected with the injuries. I think the offense does enough.
Yeah, I think you made a good point about the defense, and you also talked about it earlier about Leslie Frazier and this Bills defense has had success against Lamar. I think that trend will continue. I mean, there's only so much you can do to contain Lamar Jackson, but at the same point, I don't expect him to take over this game. I have the Bills winning this one as well. I have it being 27-21. The weather, I am a little bit worried about that because if there is that steady rain, will the Bills be able to run the ball? Will they have to rely on that? Will they be able to?
Nope.
I mean, I'm saying, like, if they need to, if it's a monsoon and they can't throw the ball, that worries me. Like you said, it favors the Ravens. But at the same point, I have the Bills winning this one.
I was thinking that's a good point. I was thinking if the weather was that bad, it's just Lamar runs on every play for Baltimore and Josh runs on every play for the Bills.
Realistically, weather has affected this season more than we kind of expected. And with things being fluid in terms of the weather, that's something to monitor. But I have the Bills winning this one.
Yeah, it's a shame because this is the good weather month of the year. I had the Bills winning again, too. I'm not going to overreact to that week. It was a bad week. Now, I'm also thinking that they're going to get some of these guys back. Maybe it's Poyer and Ed Oliver, getting them back, signing a guy like Xavier Rhodes, who I think can help them in that secondary, I think is a plus. And I think Josh Allen bounces back. He had a lot of yards in the last game. He's going to have a big game against Baltimore against that secondary. I have the Bills winning it 33-27. That is a one-score game, and that would move them to 3-1 on the year.
Okay, we'll have to wait and see. Here's a look at
Monkey off their back.
That's
yeah,
it.
here's a look at all of our picks for this one in week 4. Again, we are all going Buffalo. We are all 2-1 on the season. We shall see in this one. Kickoff at 1 p.m. Once again, the Bills kind of settling into that 1 p.m. time slot.
Yeah.
And as always, we want to remind you to check out the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. Up now, you can find what they're saying in Baltimore, as Mike did an interview with Sean Stepner, one of the Ravens reporters, as well as plenty of other coverage to get you set for this one. And of course, all the post-game coverage as well, as we'll have our insight and analysis after this game.
We did a podcast earlier today. It is already up there talking about Lamar versus Josh and Ken Dorsey.
Yeah.
The reaction.
Yeah.
And we disagree.
And our
Shocking.
reaction to the
Shocking.
reaction.
Well, sometimes we have to disagree.
Have to,
Like the
yeah.
running
Yeah, oh yeah, it's really forced.
Yeah, totally.
Of course. We will be there in Baltimore, Mike and I, so please be sure to follow us on social media. Dan will, of course, have his hot takes, I'm sure, from in the studio. Thank you all so much for joining us here on Buffalo Plus, presented by Connors and Ferris. For Mike and Dan, I am Jenna Cottrell. Again, keep it on Buffalo Plus, the YouTube channel for all your post-game coverage. And again, we also have a podcast. You can find that wherever you listen to your podcasts, Buffalo Plus. Thanks so much for watching. We'll catch you next week.